In the annals of Roman history, few defeats resonate with such chilling finality as the Battle of Carrhae. Fought in 53 BC, it was not merely a setback, but a cataclysm that shook the very foundations of the Republic. This was a wound from which Rome would never truly recover. Carrhae shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility, a myth carefully cultivated over centuries of conquest. It exposed a vulnerability, a fatal flaw in the heart of the world's greatest military machine. The echoes of this disaster would reverberate for decades. This single, devastating engagement sowed the seeds of the Roman Republic's demise. It accelerated the internal conflicts that would ultimately consume the state, paving the way for empire. The Republic, already strained, could not withstand such a blow. At the center of this unfolding tragedy stood Marcus Licinius Crassus, a man whose boundless ambition would lead him and an entire army to ruin. His story is a stark warning, etched in blood and sand. Marcus Licinius Crassus was a figure of almost unimaginable wealth, a fortune that would dwarf modern billionaires. His riches, estimated to surpass $170 billion in today's terms, afforded him immense power and influence in Rome. Yet, wealth alone could not satisfy his deepest desires. He was driven by an insatiable hunger for military glory, a craving to stand alongside the legendary commanders of his age. Crassus yearned for the triumphs and accolades that defined men like Pompey and Caesar. He sought a legacy forged not in gold, but in conquest. Despite his vast influence, Crassus often felt overshadowed, the third man in the powerful First Triumvirate. While Caesar conquered Gaul and Pompey secured the East, Crassus's military achievements remained comparatively modest. This gnawing sense of inferiority fueled his desperate ambition. His military experience, though present, was not extensive enough for the grand campaign he envisioned. He had suppressed the Spartacus revolt, a brutal but contained conflict, yet he lacked the strategic depth of his more celebrated peers. This deficiency would prove fatal. Against the counsel of many, and despite the Senate's initial refusal, Crassus launched an ill-fated invasion of Parthia. He saw it as his chance to carve out a glorious chapter, to finally equal or even surpass Caesar and Pompey. It was a gamble born of hubris. Crassus's objective was clear: an easy conquest, a swift victory that would secure his personal prestige and an enduring legacy. He envisioned a triumphant return, laden with Parthian gold and glory, silencing his critics forever. He underestimated his foe profoundly. The Roman forces assembled for this grand endeavor were formidable, a testament to Rome's military might. 7 legions, nearly 50,000 men, marched eastward, a vast, disciplined machine of war. They were the finest soldiers in the world, or so they believed. Accompanying Crassus was his son Publius, a young man of considerable promise. Publius had recently served with distinction under Caesar in Gaul, earning a reputation for bravery and tactical acumen. His presence was meant to bolster the campaign's legitimacy and Crassus's own confidence. Their destination was the Parthian Empire, a powerful eastern foe whose reach extended across vast, arid lands. This was no barbarian horde, but a sophisticated, well-organized state with a formidable military. Their general, Surena, was a master of unconventional warfare. Parthian tactics were a stark contrast to the rigid formations of the Roman legions. They were masters of guerrilla warfare, utilizing the vastness of their territory to their advantage. Their strategy was one of attrition, not direct confrontation. Their swift horse archers were legendary, capable of firing volleys of arrows with devastating accuracy while in full retreat. This Parthian shot was a psychological weapon as much as a physical one, designed to demoralize and disorient. Complementing the archers were the heavily armored cataphracts, cavalry clad in scale armor from head to hoof. These living tanks were designed to smash through enemy lines, their lances capable of impaling multiple foes. They were a terrifying sight. The Parthians harassed the Roman army relentlessly with hit-and-run tactics. They appeared from the desert haze, unleashed a storm of arrows, and vanished before the Romans could respond. This constant, unseen threat chipped away at Roman morale. They disrupted supply lines, poisoned water sources, and burned crops, systematically wearing down the Roman machine. The desert itself became an ally to the Parthians, a vast, unforgiving expanse that swallowed Roman strength. Crassus, blinded by ambition, led his army deep into the Parthian desert, far from any reliable supply lines or friendly territory. He marched them into a trap, a desolate, waterless expanse where the legion's traditional strengths would be rendered useless. The battle itself, when it finally came, was a catastrophic failure for Rome, a masterclass in tactical misjudgment. It was not a clash of titans, but a slow, agonizing dismemberment of a proud army. The desert floor became a canvas for Roman despair. The Parthian strategy was brutally effective. Endless waves of horse archers, supported by the terrifying charge of cataphracts. They circled the Roman squares, a living storm of death, raining down arrows from every direction. The constant barrage of arrows was unlike anything Rome had ever faced. These were not crude projectiles, but armor-piercing shafts, capable of penetrating Roman shields and even mail. Each volley was a hail of death, relentless and unyielding. The Romans, accustomed to close-quarters combat, found themselves helpless. Their javelins were useless at range, their swords unable to reach the elusive enemy. They were trapped, slowly bleeding out under the desert sun. In a desperate attempt to break the Parthian encirclement, Publius Crassus, the young hero of Gaul, led a desperate charge. He saw an opportunity, a perceived weakness in the Parthian lines, and seized it with youthful impetuosity. He led his cavalry against what appeared to be retreating Parthians, a feigned rout designed to lure the Romans into a deeper trap. Publius, eager for glory, fell for the deception, leading his men into a deadly ambush. Once separated from the main Roman force, Publius and his cavalry were swiftly encircled. The Parthians closed in, their numbers overwhelming, their arrows finding their mark. Publius, wounded and facing capture, chose a warrior's death. He ordered his shield-bearer to kill him, preferring oblivion to the humiliation of being taken alive. His final act was one of defiant courage, a desperate attempt to preserve his honor in the face of utter defeat. The horror that followed would forever be seared into the memory of the surviving Romans. Publius's head, freshly severed, was impaled on a spear. It was a grotesque trophy, a symbol of Parthian triumph and Roman humiliation. The Parthians then rode along the Roman line, displaying the head of Crassus's son, mocking his death, taunting the trapped legions. The sight was designed to break the Roman spirit, to plunge them into the depths of despair. The sight of his son's head, impaled and paraded, shattered Crassus. The man of immense wealth and ambition was reduced to a broken father, his will to command evaporating in a wave of grief and horror. His resolve crumbled. This single, horrific act shattered the Roman army's resolve and morale. The disciplined legions, once an unyielding force, dissolved into a state of shock and terror. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. The Roman machine, built on order and discipline, dissolved into panic and grief. The soldiers, witnessing the ultimate desecration of their commander's son, lost all hope. The battle was no longer about victory, but survival. The ensuing retreat turned into a devastating rout, a desperate scramble for survival across the unforgiving desert. The disciplined formations broke, replaced by a panicked flight, as the Parthians harried them relentlessly. The casualties were staggering, a testament to the completeness of the Parthian victory. 20,000 Romans lay dead on the sands of Carrhae, their bodies left to the elements. 10,000 more were captured or enslaved, their lives forever forfeit. 7 legions, the pride of Rome, effectively ceased to exist. Their eagles, the sacred symbols of Roman military might, were captured, a humiliation that would sting for decades. The loss was unprecedented in its scale. Crassus's death remains shrouded in grim legend, but reports suggest he was killed during a desperate attempt at negotiation. Lured into a parley under a flag of truce, he was ambushed and slain, his life ending not in battle, but in betrayal. The most enduring and chilling legend states that molten gold was poured down his throat. This gruesome act was a final, mocking gesture, a symbolic punishment for his insatiable greed and ambition. It was a brutal end for a man who had sought so much. The Battle of Carrhae shook the foundations of Roman power and shattered the myth of its invincibility. It was a stark reminder that even the mightiest empire could be brought to its knees by a cunning and determined foe. The world watched in disbelief. The first triumvirate, the fragile alliance of Crassus, Caesar, and Pompey, crumbled with Crassus's death. He had been the financial glue, the balancing force between the two towering figures. His removal created a dangerous vacuum. Crassus's death removed a crucial check on Caesar and Pompey's ambitions. With their rival gone, the delicate balance of power was irrevocably broken. The stage was set for an inevitable confrontation between the two remaining giants. This catastrophic defeat directly led to the outbreak of Roman civil war, a conflict that would tear the Republic apart. The struggle between Caesar and Pompey, once held in check, now erupted with devastating force. Rome turned on itself. Carrhae stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of ambition without restraint. Crassus's personal desire for glory overshadowed all strategic considerations, leading to the needless slaughter of tens of thousands of men. It was a tragedy born of hubris. It highlighted the devastating consequences of military miscalculation, of underestimating an enemy and failing to adapt. Crassus's adherence to conventional tactics in an unconventional environment proved to be his undoing. The battle emphasized the critical importance of understanding one's enemy, their strengths, and their unique methods of warfare. Rome learned a bitter lesson about the dangers of arrogance and ignorance on the battlefield. Carrhae is a potent lesson in asymmetric warfare, a chilling example of a smaller, agile force decisively defeating a larger, conventional army. The Parthians, with their superior tactics and knowledge of the terrain, outmaneuvered and annihilated the legions. It remains a tragedy illustrating the fragility of power, even for the most dominant empire. The enduring impact of loss, both personal and collective, reverberated through Roman society for generations. The severed head of Publius Crassus became a symbol, not just of a battle lost, but of an era ending.